Power may be generated from an internal combustion engine or turbines installed in water dams and windmills. That is, we can generate electric power from internal combustion engine, that is a mechanical power, or we can also generate it from the wind power or from the water power. Electric power on the farm is used in stationary operations such as heating, drying, lighting, processing and storage of agricultural produce, and powering of workshop machines. What are the advantages of electric power? It is quiet, neat, and free of pollution. It is reliable and efficient. Then the third one is that it is efficient or saves labor and other sources of power. Then it is very dependable. What are the disadvantages? It is expensive to establish. Its cost of maintenance is relatively high. Then the third one is that the supply is not always regular, especially in developing countries like Nigeria, where we have erratic supply or relative supply of electricity. Then the fourth one is that it cannot be employed or used for fuel or mobile operation. Now we'll be looking at some of the revision questions. Which of the following is the source of energy used by green plants for photosynthesis? A. Electricity. B. Water. C. Sun. D. Wind. E. Machine. The correct answer is sun. That's the energy being used by plants for photosynthesis. And the next question, question 2. Which of the following should be checked daily before using a tractor? A. Engine oil. B. Battery. C. Air cleaner. D. Distributor. E. Spark plug. The correct answer is A. That is engine oil. You have to check your engine oil on a daily basis. And then the third question is that, which of the following is not a disadvantage of wind power? The first one is that its supply is sporadic. We are talking about disadvantage here. Its supply is sporadic. It is very expensive. B. It is very expensive. C. Supply is uncertain. D. The amount of power produced is very small. E. Its source is the wind. Now we are talking about the disadvantage. A is the correct. We are talking about which of the following is not a disadvantage. The answer is E. That is, it is a source. Its source is the wind. That is not a disadvantage. That the A says that its supply is sporadic. That is, it is not certain. It's irregular. Then it is very expensive to install. Then that it is expensive to install. It's very expensive. It's correct that it's a disadvantage because it's expensive to install. And then the supply is uncertain, which is the same thing as A. Then the amount of power produced is very small. Are all disadvantages. While its source is the wind. We can't categorize that one as a disadvantage. Then the fourth question says that the initial function of a planter is to what? A. Press the soil to a compact form. B. Make ridges. C. Open the soil for seed. D. Close and mulch the furrow. E. Water the soil effectively. The correct answer is C. That is, open the soil for the seed. Then the fifth question is that says that one of the following limitations of mechanization of the farm is A. Reduction in the cost of production. We are talking about limitation here. A. Reduction in the cost of production. B. Exposure of soil to the effects of climate. C. Increase in yield of crops. D. Reduction of labor. And then E. Cultivation of more areas of land. One of the limitations of mechanization of farms is the following, except that's correct answer is B. Exposure of soil to the effects of climate. And then the last question is says that which of the following is not an advantage of farm mechanization. The first one is A. Increase productivity. B. Reduce drudgery. C. Promptness of operation. D. Compaction of soil. E. Increase in earned income. The answer is D. Compaction of soil. It's not an advantage of farm mechanization. We will now be going to our team 4, which is the last team for SS1, which is crop production. Well, the first subtopic we'll be dealing with is a classification of crops based on their uses. The following are the classification of crops based on their uses. We have the cereal crops. These are crops that belong to the grass family and are sources of carbohydrates, e.g. maize, rice, millet, guinea corn, wheat, barley, oats, and so on. Then we also have the legumes. The leguminous crops belong to the family of the legumineuses. Legumes are generally high in protein content and are therefore a good source of protein, a good source of plant protein in the diet of both man and livestock. Legumes are also an important component of a good crop rotation system because of their ability to fix atmospheric nitrogen, which is later released into the soil. Examples of legumes are cowpea, groundnut, pigeon pea, broad bean, and soya bean. Then the third classification based on uses is the root and tuber crops. These are crops in which the underground storage organ is either enlarged stem or roots and are called tuber crops. Tuber crops constitute a major and a relatively cheap source of food, particularly carbohydrates, which is a source of energy to man. Tuber crops are also provide raw materials to industries, e.g. the starch industry, the ethanol industry, and so on. That is, the root and tuber crops serve as food for man being, and they also serve as raw material for the industry. The next one is the fruit crops. These are crops whose fruits are rich in vitamins and minerals, e.g. orange, banana, pineapple, mango, pawpaw, cashew, and so on. They are majorly tree crops, except for pineapple and some other fruits. Then the fifth one is vegetable. Vegetables are food crops, are food rich in vitamins and minerals, and are therefore an important component of a balanced ration. A wide range of vegetables and fruits is found across different agroecologies in Nigeria. That is, examples of the two main subgroups are given below. We have the leaf vegetables, such as the African spinach, we have the water leaf, we have the bitter leaf, we have the amaranthus, we have the lettuce, the cabbage, the onion, and then we also have the fruits or non-leaf vegetables like the tomato, the pepper, the garden egg, and then the carrot. These are the types of vegetables that we have. Then we now have the classification of crops based on their life cycle. We have three types. We have three classifications. We have the annual crops. These are crops which grow and mature within 1 year, e.g. maize, rice, cowpea, millet, vegetable, cotton, groundnuts, tomato, watermelon. These are crops that grow and mature within 1 year, and they are known as annual crop. Then we have the biennial crops. These are crops which grow and mature within 2 years, e.g. cassava, pepper, ginger, and then so on. That is, they mature and grow within 2 years. And then we have the third classification based on life cycle, which is the perennial crops. These are crops which grow and mature in more than 2 years. That is, you can have 3 and then more than that, such as cocoa, oil palm, mango, orange, rubber, and so on. Then we have the classification of crops based on their morphology. What is morphology? Morphology of a plant refers to the form and shape of a plant. The morphology of crops is subdivided into two classes, which which are dicotyledon and then the monocotyledon. Now we'll be dealing with the dicotyledon first. In dicots, that is the dicotyledon, the embryo sprouts two cotyledons, which are seed leaves that usually do not become fully leaves, but serve to provide food for the new plants. Flower parts of dicots are in 4 or 5s, and the leaves are usually have veins arranged in a reticulate, that is net-like form. Examples of dicotyledon plants are cowpea, groundnut, orange, and mango. Characteristics of dicotyledon plants are they bear seeds which have 2 seed leaves or cotyledons. Another characteristic is that the vascular bundles of each stems are arranged in a regular pattern. Then their floral parts exist in groups of 4 or 5. The fourth characteristic is that the leaves have veins arranged in a branched network. And while the last characteristic we'll be looking at here is that they have taproot system. Then let's go to the monocotyledon. The monocots or monocotyledon are more properly, they are also known as monocotyledon, type of crops which has 1 or 2 classes of flowering plants. They are mostly herbaceous and include such plants, familiar plants that we know around us, such as the grass family, and which include the rice, the millet, the maize, and then we also have the palm, the oil palm. These are examples of monocots. Their features include floral parts in trees, 1 cotyledon leaf vein that are usually